It's the middle of a July afternoon, and a man is standing in his kitchen after 6 hours in the yard. His shirt is stuck to his back. His hands still smell like cut grass. His mouth tastes like a penny, and his head has started that dull throb that shows up right around the time the sun gets highest. So he does the thing almost every one of us does. He grabs the biggest glass he owns, fills it to the rim, and drinks it standing at the sink without stopping to breathe. The cold of it feels like relief all the way down. Then he fills it again and drinks half of that too. There, done. He's hydrated. He wipes his mouth, sets the glass in the sink, and goes back to whatever the rest of his evening holds. He feels better for about 15 minutes. Then he's in the bathroom, and most of what he just drank is leaving him again. And by 4 o'clock his mouth is dry as a field road in August, and he's standing at that same sink, wondering why the water never seems to hold. I want to say something plain before we go any further, because it's the whole reason I'm making this video. That man didn't drink too little water. He drank it the wrong way. And that wrong way is so common, so completely unquestioned, that almost nobody ever stops to look at it. We've all been taught to think about water like filling a tank. One good pour and you're topped off. But a body isn't a tank. A body is more like an old wooden barrel with 100 small cracks in the staves. Pour it full in one go, and half of what you poured is already leaking out the bottom before you've set the pitcher down. My name is Thomas Reeve. I keep an heirloom apple orchard in the hill country of northern Vermont, land my grandfather cleared with a team of horses, and I've spent 40-some years learning what water actually does once it leaves the hose and hits the ground. I didn't come to any of this through a textbook. I came to it the slow way, the way most orchard people learn anything, by getting it wrong first. My first 10 years running this place, I watered the way most beginners do. I'd run the irrigation hard for 20 minutes on a hot evening and go to bed thinking I'd done right by the trees. It took me the better part of a decade and a run of 3 disappointing seasons in a row before an old-timer 2 farms over finally sat me down and told me I was drowning my trees and starving them in the same breath. I want to save you those 10 years. I want to be straight with you the way I try to be straight with everybody. I'm not a physician. If you've got real trouble, swelling, dizziness, kidney problems, or your own doctor has told you to watch your fluids closely, that's a conversation for you and your doctor, not for me. My own physician, Dr. Mike Henson, is the one I go to when something in my body needs a real answer, and I'd tell you to do the same with yours. What I've got for you today isn't medicine. It's the old orchard keeper's sense about water, the kind of thing my grandfather knew without ever needing a word for it. Quick note before I keep going. There's more of this old family material than fits into one video, and I've put the fuller version together in a short written guide. You'll find the link below if you want it. I won't mention it again. I'd rather just get on with telling you the thing itself. Now here's where I want to reframe the whole idea, because the mistake is hiding inside something everybody already believes they understand. Everyone's heard you should drink your water. 8 glasses a day, they say. So people trying to do the responsible thing will fill a big glass, throw it back in one go to get it over with, do that 2 or 3 times through the day, and feel like they've handled it. And here's the hard part. A good portion of that water never actually helps them. It goes in the mouth and comes back out through the kidneys within the hour, and what they're left with is a trip to the bathroom and a false sense of being watered when they're really not. Why does this happen? I'll keep the mechanism honest and simple, because it is simple. When you pour a large volume of plain water into your body all at once, your bloodstream gets diluted faster than your body wants it to. Your kidneys respond by opening up and clearing the extra fluid to bring things back into balance. A meaningful share of that big gulp is gone within an hour or two. But when you take in the same total amount slowly, spread out a little at a time, your body has the time it needs to actually move that water where it's needed, into your tissues, into your cells, instead of rushing to flush it back out. Fast and heavy, you're mostly just running water through yourself like a length of garden hose. This isn't old folklore dressed up to sound wise. Physiologists describe the same pattern. Sip steadily, and your body retains more. Gulp it down, and a larger share is cleared quickly. The how matters nearly as much as the how much, and almost nobody ever gets told the how. Think about it from the other direction for a moment. If gulping and sipping worked exactly the same, marathon runners and field crews in real heat would just drink 2 enormous glasses before heading out and call it a day. Nobody does that because everybody who's ever worked hard in the sun has learned the hard way that it doesn't hold. They carry a bottle and take a pull from it every 15 or 20 minutes instead. That's not superstition. That's generations of people finding the same answer my grandfather found in his orchard rows, just from a different direction. My grandfather never had a word for kidney filtration, but he understood water the way any orchard keeper understands it. And I want to give you the picture that made it click for me, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Think about how a good, slow rain moves through an orchard. The kind of rain a grower is grateful for, soft, steady, falling for hours without ever really picking up. The ground can drink every drop of a rain like that. It sinks down past the topsoil. It reaches the deep roots, the ones a young tree doesn't even grow until it's a few years in the ground. Walk that orchard the next morning, and the soil is dark and cool a foot down, and the trees stand up like they've been fed. Now picture the other kind, the July thunderstorm that dumps 1.5 inches in 20 minutes. What happens to that same orchard? The ground can't take it in that fast. It doesn't soak down. It runs off the surface. It carves little channels down the rows. It fills the low spots and carries good topsoil out toward the road. You can measure 1.5 inches of rain in the gauge and still find the soil bone dry 3 inches down the very next day, because none of it had time to actually go where it was needed. The storm looked like a lot of water. The orchard barely got any of it. I've dug test holes after both kinds of weather more times than I can count, just to see it for myself. After a soft 2-day rain, the shovel goes in easy 1.5 feet down, and the soil comes up dark and holds together in your palm. After a hard cloudburst, I've dug that very same hole the next morning and hit dry, pale dirt before the blades even 1/3 of the way in. Same rain gauge reading both times. 2 completely different results. The number in the gauge told me nothing about what actually reached the roots. Only the pace of the rain told me that. Your body works the same way. The big glass, thrown back all at once, is the thunderstorm. It looks like plenty of water, and most of it runs straight through you. The slow sip, carried through the day, is the soft, steady rain, and that's the water that actually reaches your roots. My grandfather used to say he tried to drink water the way he prayed for rain. Not all at once. A little, and then a little more, and then a little more again. So let me give you the actual method, how Margaret and I do this ourselves, because a principle like this is only worth something once you can put it to work tomorrow morning. It starts the second you're out of bed. Through the night, 6, 7, 8 hours, nothing has gone into you, but you've never stopped losing water. You've been breathing it out with every breath. You've been losing it slowly through your skin the whole time you slept. You wake up already behind before you've even opened your eyes. That's why your first trip to the bathroom in the morning tends to run dark, your body telling you plainly, in a color you can read, that you're running low. So the first thing, before the coffee, is water, not a flood of it. Margaret and I each take about half a glass the moment we're up. Not a big cold tumbler knocked back in one motion, just half a glass, unhurried. Then we go about the early business of the morning, and a bit later, another half glass. Another with breakfast. You can see the pattern. We're not trying to fill the barrel in one pour. We're starting the slow soak we'll keep up the rest of the day. And that's the rule, from sunup to sundown. Small and frequent beats large and occasional, every time. A half glass here, a handful of good swallows there, the porch rail, so a sip is never more than an arm's length away. Your body wants a steady, gentle supply, not a flood followed by a drought. Most people do the exact opposite without ever noticing. They go hours without a thought of water until they're properly thirsty, then slam a large glass to fix it, which mostly runs through them, and then forget again for another few hours. Flood, then drought. It's the same pattern that carves the ruts down an orchard row. I'll tell you plainly, this small habit made the biggest difference for the two people I care about, watching the closest. Margaret works on her feet most of the day, and she used to get those mid-afternoon headaches that she'd blame on the light or the heat. Half a glass, 6 or 7 times through the day, instead of 2 big ones, and those headaches mostly stopped bothering her. And my mother, who's 81 now, has never been one to remember to drink much of anything unless it's in front of her, so we keep a small glass sitting right by her chair, filled part way, and she works through it without ever having to think about it as a chore. Neither of those is a medical claim. It's just what steady, unhurried water did for two people I watch every day of my life. There's a piece of timing worth mentioning too, and it surprises people. The hour or so before you actually feel thirsty is the hour that matters most. Thirst is your body telling you it's already running short, not warning you ahead of time. By the time your mouth feels dry, you're already a step behind the way that field is a step behind once the ground has cracked. That's exactly why the sip and carry method works better than waiting for the feeling. You're not chasing thirst, you're staying ahead of it. Here's a second piece of the old method, one the modern habit has mostly dropped. Drink your water with your food, or close to it. Margaret always has a full glass on the table at supper, without fail. There's real sense in that. Water taken in alongside food tends to be absorbed more gently and held onto better than the same water gulped down alone on an empty stomach. My grandparents drank at the table because that was simply how a meal was done. They were doing the right thing without ever needing a reason for it. It's worth saying that this cuts against a habit a lot of us picked up somewhere along the way. The idea that drinking with a meal waters down your digestion or isn't good for you. I've never found a solid reason behind that notion, and my grandparents certainly never heard of it. A glass at the table isn't working against your meal. It's working with it, the same way water works with the soil instead of against it when it's given the time to sink in properly. And a third piece, and this one matters just as much as the rest. A good share of your water isn't meant to come from a glass at all. It's meant to come from your food. Real food, the kind that comes off a tree or out of a garden, carries its own water. A peach is nearly all water. So is a cucumber, a melon, a tomato, a bowl of good soup, a handful of berries off the cane. Water that arrives inside food tends to soak in slowly and steadily, the way we want it to, because it comes bundled together with the minerals and fiber that help your body actually hold on to it. Now, that point about food opens up the part people usually get exactly backward, and I want to handle it carefully, because there's a lot of nonsense floating around about it. You'll hear it said that water by itself isn't enough, that you need salt for the water to do its job. That part is true as far as it goes. Your body genuinely does need a certain baseline of sodium to hold water where it belongs and keep the overall balance right. A body that's genuinely short on it does struggle to stay hydrated. That much is honest. But here's where I part ways with a lot of what gets said about it. You don't fix that by dosing your tongue with crystals of some specialty salt before every glass of water like it's a tonic. You don't need an imported pink salt or a rare gray sea salt shipped across an ocean to get there. Your body doesn't know or care what color the salt is or how far it traveled. And I'll say plainly, the idea that ordinary table salt has been tampered with or poisoned is a scare story, not a fact. Plain salt is plain salt. The honest, old-fashioned way to get the small amount of sodium and the other minerals your body actually needs is the way my grandparents got it. from real food. Fruit and vegetables carry not just water, but the minerals that travel with it, potassium especially, all in the natural proportions nature already balanced. A person eating from a garden and salting an ordinary meal to taste with plain table salt is getting what they need and has no real reason to be dosing themselves with anything fancier. The trouble in most modern diets isn't a shortage of specialty salt, it's a shortage of real food. We've traded the garden for the package, and the package tends to arrive loaded with the wrong kind of salt and almost none of the minerals that come free and already balanced inside a tomato. Fix the food, and the mineral side of things mostly takes care of itself. That's the honest answer, and it doesn't cost you anything extra. I'll add one more thing here, because I think it matters and I don't hear it said enough. There are real situations where a person genuinely does need more than food and plain water can give them. A long day of hard labor in real heat, a bout of illness with vomiting or diarrhea, an endurance effort that runs for hours. In those cases, a proper electrolyte replacement isn't foolishness, it's sound sense. And that's a fair conversation to have with a physician like Dr. Mike Henson, if it applies to you or someone in your household. What I'm talking about is the ordinary day, the desk, the yard, the errands, the school pickup, where a body doing normal things needs nothing more exotic than water taken slowly and food grown properly. Most of what gets sold to us is aimed at that ordinary day, dressed up to look like it's solving the hard labor problem. So let me pull the whole thing together, because once you see the shape of it, it's simple enough to actually live by. Your body is losing water constantly, through your skin, through your breath, through your kidneys, even while you're sitting still in a cool room. In real heat or real work, that loss climbs a great deal higher, and you carry no reserve tank. Nothing goes in except what you actually put in. So it has to be replaced faithfully, all day, every day. But replace it the right way, not in floods that run straight through you, but in a slow, steady soak, a little at a time, the way a gentle rain waters an orchard, spread across the day, taken alongside your food, backed up by real food that brings its own water and its own minerals along with it. That's the whole of it, not a product. Not a powder, not a specialty salt, just the plain old sense of people who spent their lives watching how water actually moves through soil and through a body, and who watered themselves accordingly. None of this asks you to buy anything, track anything on a chart, or change your whole day around. It asks you to move a glass closer to wherever you sit. It asks you to take small swallows instead of big ones, and to notice, the next time you're truly thirsty, that you probably let it get that far. Small changes like that don't feel like much on the first day. Give it a week, and most people notice the afternoon slump doesn't hit quite as hard, and the morning grogginess lifts a little faster. Give it a season, and it stops feeling like a habit you're keeping and starts feeling like the only sensible way to drink water there ever was. And here's the part that always sits with me the longest, the part nobody makes a dollar telling you. There's no money in this. Nobody gets rich telling a person to sip plain water slowly and eat something that grew in dirt. So instead, the whole idea gets dressed up and sold back to you. The specialty bottle, the mineral drops, the electrolyte powder in the bright pouch, the rare salt priced at 5 times what the plain kind costs at the corner store. Somebody on a screen with a supplement to sell you, fixing a problem that a glass of water, taken slowly, would have handled for nothing. I don't say any of that to make you angry at anybody in particular. Most of the people selling these things believe in them. I say it because I want you to notice the pattern for yourself. The next time you're standing in an aisle, looking at $40 worth of powder that promises to do what a tomato and a glass of water, taken slow, would have done anyway. Once you've seen the pattern, you can't really unsee it, and that's worth more to you than anything I could sell you. I'm not telling you it's a conspiracy. I'm telling you something plainer and honestly harder to fix than a conspiracy. The free, simple thing doesn't have a salesman standing behind it, so these things believe in them. I say it because I want you to notice the pattern for yourself. The next time you're standing in an aisle, looking at $40 worth of powder that promises to do what a tomato and a glass of water, taken slow, would have done anyway. Once you've seen the pattern, you can't really unsee it, and that's worth more to you than anything I could sell you. I'm not telling you it's a conspiracy. I'm telling you something plainer and honestly harder to fix than a conspiracy. The free, simple thing doesn't have a salesman standing behind it, so it goes quiet. And into that quiet walks everybody with something to sell. The old sense about water never got proven wrong. It just got drowned out because nobody can put a price tag on rain. Tell me down in the comments, how do you actually drink your water now that you've thought it through? Are you a gulper, the one big glass and call it done? Or have you been a sipper all along without ever quite noticing it? And did your own family have a rule about water? Something at the table, a habit passed down without anybody explaining why? I'd like to hear it, and I know other folks reading through the comments would too. These old habits tend to live longest when we say them out loud to each other. Since this one was about getting the water in, the next video I want to make is about the food that carries it. The late summer harvest that's nearly all water on its own. The melons, the cucumbers, the tomatoes, the greens, and how a family used to lean on them to get through the hardest heat of the year without ever once thinking of it as hydration. Same honest approach. What's true, what's just a nice-sounding story, and how to actually use what's true. Subscribe so you don't miss it. And the next time a hard rain moves through, and you watch it hammer the ground and go running off down the road in a muddy stream, remember that